Cudi, did he do it?
Kid Cudi, who arrived to court in jeans and a leather jacket while smoking a cigarette, claims he was the focus of Diddy's jealous rage.
Kid Cudi walked into that courtroom like he owned it, and then, with the same effortless cool, he dropped testimony so explosive it could send Diddy away for good. This wasn't just a celebrity court appearance, it was a reckoning. And every single word Kid Cudi said had Diddy's lawyers sweating bullets.
Did he help the prosecution as much as I think he helped the prosecution?
Well, he's a very compelling witness. And as we were talking about off camera, have you ever seen somebody walk into a courtroom with more poise and coolness?
No.
I mean, ever. Smoking a cigarette, leather jacket, the whole deal. But you know, each one of these witnesses, it's almost creating like an insurmountable mountain of evidence against Sean Diddy Combs.
Let's rewind to the moment that started it all, December 2011. Kid Cudi gets a frantic call from Cassie. Diddy found out they were dating. And what happened next?
Kid Cudi said that he believes Diddy broke into his Hollywood home. He told the court that he started dating Cassie around 2011. And in December of that year, Cassie told him Diddy had found out about us. The same day, he said that he got a call from a Diddy employee who told him that Diddy was at his house. So Cudi, he went home and he called Diddy on the way. He said it went something like this. I said, MFer, you in my house? And he was like, what's up? I was like, MFer, are you in my house? And he said, I just want to talk to you. I was like, I'm on my way over right now. He was like, I'm here.
But when Kid Cudi arrives, the scene is straight out of a horror movie.
He got to his home and he described seeing gifts that were unwrapped and that his dog was locked away in the bathroom. Although there were cameras that he said were turned a different way that normally wouldn't have been turned, so whoever did break in was intentional.
This wasn't just a break-in. It was a message. But what happened next would prove this was only the beginning.
And you fast forward to January 2012, Cudi testified that this happened. His dog watcher called to tell him that his Porsche was on fire. The jury, well, they saw these images. And Cudi said it looked like the top had been cut open and a Molotov cocktail was dropped inside. The prosecutor asked, what was your reaction to your car being set on fire? Cudi said, what the F?
This wasn't random vandalism. This was personal. But here's the kicker. When he confronted Diddy at a private meeting at Soho House, Diddy played dumb.
People started laughing in the courtroom as he's describing how he first sees Combs. He said, I entered this room and Combs was looking out of a window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. At the end of that meeting, Kid Cudi described shaking Combs' hand and saying, but let's talk about my car. And Combs said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he just left.
Kid Cudi didn't buy it, and neither did the jury. The prosecution flashed photos of the wrecked Porsche in court, the blown-out roof, the melted seats. And then came the bombshell. Kid Cudi straight up called Diddy a violent person on the stand. No sugarcoating, no backtracking, just delivered with that signature Kid Cudi calm. But then, the defense made a huge mistake. Diddy's legal team thought they could break Kid Cudi. They were wrong. Instead, they handed him the mic, and he used it to bury them. Brian Steele, Diddy's high-profile attorney, went hard on Cassie, claiming she played Kid Cudi, that she was living two lives. But Kid Cudi didn't flinch.
He was kind of essentially gearing this a little bit more towards Cassie. Brian Steele had said something along the lines of, Cassie played you, and Kid Cudi responded, yes. Brian Steele was asking Kid Cudi about his music career and how popular he was, especially around that time frame. And, around that time frame, I was still in high school. But Kid Cudi was so huge around that time frame. So I think what the defense was trying to do was possibly allude that maybe it was a deranged fan who had did this, and it wasn't necessarily Brian Steele's client at the time, or client now, that being Diddy. But then Brian Steele was kind of trying to be like, oh, you did drugs with Cassie. And Kid Cudi was like, well, we smoked some weed. And I think the defense was trying to also get in Cassie's sexual mystery as well too, whether or not Kid Cudi and Cassie were intimate. However, they kept on having sidebars during this moment. And as we all know, with the sidebars, there's a lot of static noise. So we don't know what they're talking about. They kind of huddle off into a corner. They kind of go through, I guess, the arguments. The jury's still inside that courtroom, but us in the gallery and the jurors even too, we hear this just loud static noise. So I'm not sure kind of what the bottom or what they got to as far as the bottom of just this sidebar, but Brian Steele was just essentially kind of trying to paint it as that Cassie essentially played Kid Cudi. And so when Brian Steele was cross-examining Kid Cudi just about whether or not Cassie had told Kid Cudi about sexual abuse, and Kid Cudi responded she never did. Kid Cudi surprisingly said that he was in love with Cassie.
Right.
He also said that he never saw Diddy hit her, and Diddy never interrupted Cassie and Kid Cudi when they were together. And so far from what I could see even of the jurors kind of while they were while Brian Steele was cross-examining Kid Cudi, the jury seemed very engaged with this testimony. I mean, they're always engaged, but you could really tell that they were super engaged about this, probably especially after seeing those exhibit photos. Then we kind of get into the Soho House meeting, and that was the meeting where Kid Cudi, Cassie, and Diddy himself all got together. They all kind of just hashed everything out, and that was surprisingly the last time Kid Cudi had seen Cassie. And so Brian Steele was asking Kid Cudi, you know, she was living 2 different lives, and Kid Cudi responded yes. And so then they kind of ended the cross-examination as far as Cassie was the one who gave Mr. Combs your address, and Kid Cudi responded yes. So those were some of the biggest highlights of the cross-examination. Obviously, I took a whole bunch of notes so I could really get into the weeds of it, but I know for time and everything like that, I can't say everything right now.
Well, you do provide such incredible detail, and we appreciate it because there are no cameras in there, but I know you have to head back into court. Look, it seemed to me that they were really trying to assassinate Cassandra Ventura's character, questioning her motives, questioning if she's manipulative of both Kid Cudi and Sean Combs, the burner phones, things of that nature.
Kid Cudi admitted what the defense didn't want the jury to hear. She never told me Diddy hurt her, but I saw the fear in her eyes when his name came up. His voice cracked just enough to make jurors lean forward. Diddy's poker face finally broke. For the first time all trial, he visibly tensed up, whispering urgently to his lawyers. Because Kid Cudi hadn't just testified, he painted Diddy as a jealous ex who couldn't let Cassie go. By the end, Kid Cudi wasn't just a witness, he was the prosecution's secret weapon. So what does this mean for Diddy's future?
Could evidence pose an issue for the defense? Let's break down the key legal strategies that we saw. We have Brian Buckmeyer playing the defense, Bernarda Villalona playing prosecutor. Let's get right into this. The police report, Bernarda. A break-in to Kid Cudi's home in 2011. Does this actually matter?
It does matter in the sense of not really the break-in, but the arson part of it. But the break-in just leads you to believe, like, Jesus, how demented is Sean Combs? And I think that is what the prosecution was trying to drill to this jury, to show how his jealousy, his anger, his rage, and his being possessive over Cassie, like how far he's willing to go. And I think that's exactly what was the strategy of the prosecution, in addition to, of course, what was important, the arson part, in order to meet that racketeering conspiracy part, because breaking and entering is not part of it.
Brian, did they prove that it was him?
I think they got very close. I think there's actually a bit of a mistake by the defense. And what I mean by that is during the direct examination of Kid Cudi, it got to a point where they led us all the way to the edge. It was like, oh, maybe Sean Combs did or maybe he didn't. But when Kid Cudi talked about arranging a meeting at the Soho House with Sean Combs and was asked why he did it, he came out and said, well, because I thought that Sean Combs was a part of this. Now, they objected to that and it's sustained. They should not contemplate that in the end of the case. But as we say as attorneys,
you can't unring the bell.
Can't unring the bell.
Kid Cudi's testimony didn't just corroborate Cassie's lawsuit, it gave the prosecution everything they needed. Legal experts say this is the turning point. Because now, it's not just Cassie's word against Diddy's. It's Kid Cudi's, a Grammy-winning artist with zero reason to lie. And his story, full of details only someone who lived it would know. The moved security cameras, the dog locked in the bathroom, the Molotov cocktail's exact placement in his car. The jury's reaction said it all. They laughed at Kid Cudi's jokes. They leaned in during the Molotov photos. And when Diddy's team attacked Cassie, their faces tightened. That's not the reaction you want if you're the defense. One thing's clear, Diddy's empire is on trial. And after Kid Cudi's testimony, the walls are closing in.
Hey guys, so I just want to say, man, I've been seeing all the love and support, and I just want to say thank you so much, man. people have been hitting me up the past week, just checking in, and even today, and it really means a lot to me, man. You guys are the best. I love y'all. This is a stressful situation. I'm glad it's behind me, and yeah, I love y'all, man. Big love.
This case is far from over, and we'll be covering every second. Smash that like button if Cudi's story blew your mind, and subscribe to stay locked in for every twist in this wild trial. Do you think Diddy's team can recover from this? Or is this the beginning of the end?